In this video, I'm going to go over a return to sport program for a softball player. Now, before we begin the exercises, you obviously want to make sure that you're cleared by your physician to progress to a return to sport program, as well as adhering to your protocol, your post-surgical protocol that you're using. But we're going to say that those things are cleared and you're ready to progress. So we're going to start with dumbbell internal and external rotation. Just have my elbows at the side here. And I would complete somewhere between 2 to 3 sets, 15 to 20 repetitions, just a light weight to kind of warm things up. Then I'm going to bring my elbows out to the side, maybe about 45 degrees. Doesn't have to be perfect, but something in this range. Now I'm going to complete 10 repetitions to 12 repetitions. So a little less on the repetitions because the resistance is a little more difficult. And then I'm going to go all the way out to 90, and then I'm going to go back this way and then into external rotation, and I'm only completing 2 to 3 sets of 8 to 10 repetitions. So your initial 15 to 20, then I do 10 to 12, and then I'm out here 8 to 10. And if you can't go through that cycle, I like to repeat those just one after the other. If you can't go through that cycle and complete that many repetitions, initially just start with maybe 3 to 5 repetitions of each one at each position. Now, after you go through that series of 3, I consider that one set. We're going to repeat that for 2 to 3 sets. And this program is going to be completed 3 times a week. Now we're going to perform shoulder flexion, shoulder scaption, and shoulder abduction. Now with this, just like the previous set of exercises, I like to go through this in the sequence of 3, okay? Because we're going to assume that by the point that you started this program, you've already been completing those 2 or 3 sets of 10 or 12 repetitions of your exercises, just kind of one at the time, followed by a rest period. So with this, we're really trying to push the muscle endurance as well as the strength and overall capacity of the athlete. So what we're going to do, palms facing each other, we're going to go up into shoulder flexion, just like this, staying below that 90 mark. I mean, if you get right at 90 or 100, that's okay. I just try to stay below that so as not to irritate the shoulder joint. So I'm going to complete 10 to 12 repetitions there, and then I'm going to go straight into scaption, so that kind of not straight in the front, but not straight out to the side. Same thing, 10 to 12 repetitions there. And then palms facing down towards the floor, 10 to 12 repetitions there, shoulder abduction. And again, that would be considered one set. And then I'm going to repeat that for a couple of sets. Again, if you can't perform the 10 to 12 repetitions, back off, maybe 3 to 5, start slow and low, and then progress from there. And that's something also, you want to make sure that you have a dumbbell or dumbbells that you can control. We don't want to create, poor movement patterns on top of the movement patterns that you already have that are impaired from your injury and your surgical recovery. So we want to make sure that these are weights that you can handle and we don't learn, poor movement patterns. Now we're going to add in ship wheels. So what I like to do is take one of these bands, pull it apart, and then I'm going to go just like this and just kind of rotate around like I'm turning the wheel of a ship, right? Just back and forth, trying to keep everything controlled, symmetrical, keeping that tension on the band, the whole way through. And I would complete maybe 2 or 3 sets of 10 reps. And so I consider, back and forth, one full movement there is 1 repetition. And I would just go through that. Again, with the band, get a band that you can control. If you can't pull it apart a little bit or it really throws off your movement quality, get a smaller band and then go through that. But again, that's ship wheels. Now we're going to perform internal rotation using a band. Again, this is going to be modified from what you've been doing in your previous therapy. So my elbow is by my side here. I'm going to bring this in. So now I'm going to perform internal rotation with a band. So again, this is going to be different than the movements that you were performing with your previous therapy. So my elbow is by my side here. I'm going to bring my hand in nice and controlled, right? And I'm going to go for 10 to 12 repetitions. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn to the side. I'm going to have my elbow out at, kind of an angle here. So maybe I'm at about 45 degrees, give or take. And I'm going to come in like that. So I'm kind of pulling my hand down at 10 to 12 repetitions. And then I'm going to come out, try to get this out about 90 degrees, 80 to 90. And then I'm going to go forward just like that. Okay? Be careful if you've had a labral tear or there's some bicep reattachment that's occurred, subscapularis involvement. You want to be a little cautious with that, but I'm just going to go down again, 10 to 12 repetitions, and I would complete somewhere between 2 to 3 sets of that exercise. Now we're going to perform external rotation. So similar to the internal rotation, my elbow is by my side. I'm going to bring it out. I'm going for 10 to 12 repetitions. And then I'm going to go right into my hand kind of being in that modified out to the side position, external. And then I'm going to work all the way, bringing my elbow out to 90, and I'm working on that. And I repeat all three of these exercises in sequence together without taking a break, right? Because we're trying to build that endurance and we're trying to build that capacity in order to go back to sport play. So the next exercise we're going to do is scapular retraction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull back on the band, keeping my elbow, right here by my side, and then I'm going to complete 10 to 12 repetitions, then bring my elbow out a little bit, right? Not all the way at shoulder level, but just out a little bit, 10 to 12 repetitions, and then I'm going to go all the way up high and pull back 10 to 12 repetitions. And so when I'm doing that again, I'm not going to take a break between each one of those movements. I'm going to try to complete all three of those before I take a break, and then I will repeat that for 2 to 3 times. Now we're going to look at scapular protraction. So I have the band attached back here. I'm going to push straight forwards, right? Or a chest press, however you want to call it, because you are having protraction of the scapula as well as pressing. Now, with this, I should mention hand position. Does it matter if the palm is facing down, if it's neutral, if it's up? That's just your preference. Whatever feels the best, whatever you like. So you're going to push forwards with this. Now, the next thing we're going to do is scapular protraction or a chest press. So I'm going to start with my elbow by my side, right? And I'm pushing forwards, almost like I'm punching forwards. Palm, it doesn't matter if it's in neutral, pronation, supination, whatever feels best to you. I'm going to complete 10 to 12 repetitions here. I'm going to bring my elbow out about halfway, 10 to 12 repetitions here, right? And then I'm going to go all the way up here at shoulder level, 10 to 12 repetitions here, really contracting and feeling that movement. Try not to make that a torso turner. Try to really just focus on it being the upper extremity when you're doing that movement. And again, you're going to go through all three of those movements before you take a break and then complete 2 to 3 sets. So what we're going to do now is going to be some tricep extensions. Again, this is going to be a little modified from what you probably have already been doing with your therapy program. So I'm going to take my elbows here. I've got the band fastened at the top. I'm going to pull this down, and then I'm going to hold it at the bottom, right? I'm holding for 10 seconds. Then I'm going to come back about halfway, 10 seconds, and I'm going to come at the top of the movement and hold that about 10 seconds. And I'm going to go all the way back down. So that's considered 1 repetition. And I would complete 10 repetitions of that movement for 2 to 3 sets. Now we're going to perform bicep curls or elbow flexion using one of these resistance bands. I'm going to stand on the band. Now, with this, instead of just going through, again, that traditional, bicep curl, we're going to modify this because by the point that you're performing this program, you've already been completing those. So what I'm doing here is I have my hands palm up. I'm going to come up a little bit, where I'm kind of starting to bend the elbow into flexion, so you can kind of see I'm bent just a little bit there. And I'm going to hold that. I'm going to hold that maybe for 5 to 10 seconds. So initially maybe only able to hold it for maybe 3 seconds, but I'm going to go there. Then I'm going to bend up, so you can see there I'm about halfway through the movement, and I'm going to hold that the same way. And then I'm going to go all the way to the top, and I'm going to hold it the same way, the same amount of time. And you're really going to feel that burn in the bicep and the forearm. It's really just kind of flushing that blood in there. And so I'm going to do that, and then I go all the way to the bottom, and then I finish with a full 3 reps. So I would go 3 reps after that, go through, and then I would rest. And I would consider that as 1 set. And I'd repeat that 2 to 3 times. But again, you're going to start down low. You're going to hold that, working towards 10 seconds, about halfway, working towards 10 seconds, at the top, working towards 10 seconds, and then go and kind of flush it all out with 3 repetitions. Now we're going to perform one of the exercises. It's one of my favorites. This has, research based, some of the highest EMG activity for the posterior cuff of the shoulder. So I'm just going to lie on my side here. I'm going to take a towel, put this towel under my elbow, right? And then rest my head here. And I'm going to take this dumbbell and go into external rotation, just like this. And I would complete somewhere between 2 to 3 sets, 10 to 12 repetitions, with the addition of, on the last repetition, I want you to hold it. You're going to statically hold that for around 10 seconds if you can. Again, you're going to go out just like this, and then on that 10th or 12th repetition, hold that for 10 seconds if you can. Now we're going to perform ball drops. So this is a great motor control and reaction exercise that you can do. And so I'm going to take the ball out here. This is just a 2-pound weighted ball. I'm going to hold it, drop it and grab it, hold it, drop it and grab it. We can do this from different positions. I can do this out to the side. I can do this in the front. Sometimes I'll have the athlete close their eyes and do this same movement, you know, after they've mastered it with the eyes open. They're going to close their eyes and do this and try to drop it and catch it. Again, just a great motor control and proprioceptive exercise that the athlete can do. This exercise is going to be both a cervical retraction exercise as well as a mid-back scapular squeeze. So what I'm going to do is take one of these bands. You want a band, again, that you can control. Eventually you can progress with the strength. I'm not just trying to pull this apart. It's more I'm trying to squeeze my shoulder blades in the back. So in other words, if the band weren't even there and I squeeze my shoulder blades, it would kind of look like this. So that's basically what I'm doing. So I'm going to squeeze my shoulder blades, keeping my elbows tucked in. So I'm keeping my elbows tucked in, squeeze my shoulder blades back. At the same time, I'm going to retract my cervical spine. So here we go. So squeeze back, retract my cervical spine, hold it 3 to 5 seconds, then relax. Retract cervical spine, 3 to 5 seconds, and relax. And I will complete somewhere between 10 to 12 repetitions for 2 to 3 sets of that movement. Now we're going to perform dumbbell rows. Now again, we're going to modify this from just a traditional rote repetition dumbbell row. What I'm going to do here is support my upper body with my other arm. I'm going to keep my elbow nice and tucked in close to my side, and I'm going to go through these rows. Now what I'm going to do here is every other repetition, okay, for 10 to 12 reps, every other repetition, I'm going to hold it for around 3 seconds. So here I go. So 1 and then 2. I'm going to hold it, really squeezing my lat on that side, really feeling the scapula, you know, the muscles contract, and then I go back, and then there's a repetition, and then every other one, I'm going to hold it and squeeze like that again. If that's too difficult or even too painful for you to do, then go through the repetitions and just try to maybe hold the last one, but then hold it for 10, 12 seconds if you can. And I'll repeat that for 2 to 3 sets. Now we're going to demonstrate some manual resisted exercise. I really like to do these. I think that it gives a good feel of where the patient is in their strength during the range of motion. So we're going to say this is her left shoulder that's affected, and she has her elbow by her side, and then Kenzie's going to externally rotate, and I'm going to resist her the whole way up, and then she comes down. I resist her all the way up. She comes down. I resist her. And I'll repeat that maybe 10, 15 repetitions. For 2 to 3 sets. And now we're going to do internal rotation. So she's bringing her fist down towards her abdomen, and then she pulls against me each time. And again, we repeat that for 10 to 12 repetitions. Now we're going to do shoulder abduction. So she's going to bring her arm up, and I'm going to resist her on the way up. There we go. Just apply pressure. And I may change that pressure throughout the range of motion. It just depends on how she feels. So I do like those 3 exercises. And I would complete 2 to 3 sets, 10 to 12 repetitions of each one of those. These are stability perturbations, and so what Kenzie's going to do is bring the arm all the way out. The elbow is straight. She has a dumbbell in her hand, and I'm going to have her hold it there, and I'm just going to challenge her from different directions. And I'm going to do that between maybe 5 to 10 seconds, and then I relax and let her come down. And then she brings her arm back up, and then I do the same thing all the way around here, and then back down. And I repeat that for 2 to 3 sets of 10 to 12 repetitions. Now I also can vary this a couple different ways. I can have her close her eyes while I do that, which makes that even more challenging. And then I also can have her vary the position. So maybe she starts with her arm in this position and we do them here, and then maybe she brings her arm up in here, and then maybe I go overhead and I do the same thing. So you can just kind of play with that and vary that depending on her pain and how she's doing overall. This exercise is going to work the neck extensors as well as those middle trap and scapular retracting muscles. So what Kenzie's going to do, she's propped on her elbows here. She's going to kind of chin tuck, bring her chin back, hold that position, tighten all this up in her middle back, and she's going to hold that between 5 to 10 seconds. And she'll repeat this for 2 to 3 sets of 10 repetitions. Now initially she may be very sore from this. I may only do 1 set of 10 to 12 repetitions. Again, this is more about focusing on making sure that we're contracting everything, keeping everything nice and controlled, nice and contracted. So just a really good exercise to try to work on the cervical neck as well as the middle and upper back. Now Kenzie's going to perform prone Ys and Ts. Now the variation I like of this is going to be she's going to hold these for 5 to 10 seconds. So she's going to go out there in a prone Y. She's going to bring it out, and now she's going to try to hold that for, around 10 seconds if she can. Really focusing on contracting all these muscles in the back of the shoulder here in the middle back. And then she's going to perform the prone T's out to the side. Again, the same thing. She's going to bring that out and then statically hold it there. Nice and controlled. We don't want her shaking or anything. Again, we're trying to build capacity within the muscle tissue. So that is prone Y's and prone T's. I perform 2 to 3 sets, 10 to 12 repetitions. Now Kenzie's going to perform cervical flexion and extension using a resistance band. So what she's going to do with this is just try to bring her chin down to her chest. We're going to complete 2 to 3 sets, 10 to 12 repetitions. And again, like the other exercises, I probably would have her hold these for anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds, maybe each rep, maybe every other repetition, even the last repetition of each set, she can do that. And then she's going to do extension where she's resisting as she tries to look up towards the sky or the ceiling. So again, just adding in those cervical exercises to kind of complement everything we're doing with the rest of the upper extremity. Ray is going to demonstrate using a resistance band, going through her movements that she would do whenever she pitches. Ray was a collegiate pitcher, and so she's worked very hard and doing a lot of these drills and things. So she's just going through some basic movements here just to incorporate that functional movement pattern that she would do. Something different than just that rote repetition, single plane movement. So again, she'd repeat this several times, maybe 15 to 20 repetitions for a couple of sets, and she would do this at every session. Now Ray is going to use a weighted ball. So with the weighted balls, you have to be careful. I wouldn't have her throw this initially. I'd just have her go through the movement and then progress to throwing the ball. But again, you have to be really careful with this. So she's just going through this movement, how she would throw in a game, just trying to really work on control and stability of the upper extremity and focusing on mechanics. So again, that's using a weighted ball. I do like that technique. I just urge you to use a little caution with that. Now Ray is going to perform some plyometric throws here off a rebounder. So just using the ball, just a front pass, then she's going to go overhead. She's going to turn to the side, go through a bunch of different movements, and I would repeat this maybe really fast. We'd run through them all. 15, 20, 30 repetitions. Maybe I don't even count repetitions, I just do it timed. I have her do it for so many minutes. Again, focus on her form and really paying attention to her biomechanics. So again, this is a really good technique to incorporate, especially for a return to sport program. Ray is going to demonstrate med ball slam. So what she's going to do is go overhead, really generate the force, and slam this down in the ground. All right? She's going to repeat this 2 to 3 sets, 10 to 15 repetitions, really focusing on generating the force with her legs, that ground reaction, and then slamming the ball down. A great technique to try to improve that power of the entire body. Ray is demonstrating using the tidal tank for trunk rotation. So what she's going to do is go as fast as she can side to side. She can vary foot placement. She can have her feet even. She can have one in front of the other. She can alternate that. So just a really cool technique and exercise. And I would have her do that instead of maybe repetitions. I just time her and have her go for a certain amount of time. This exercise is going to be perturbations of the upper extremity. So Ray is going to push out, and while she's out there holding that anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds, I'm going to kind of move her around. She goes back out in the repetition. I'm pushing all different directions here, and she goes back, and then she would repeat this for 2 to 3 sets of 10 to 15 repetitions. That's a great stability motor control exercise for the upper extremity. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this video helps to make that transition from in-clinic treatment to return to sport.